The Galactic Council fucked up, and now it's up to humans to unfuck the situation or watch the whole damn galaxy burn. Marcus Miller sat across an interrogation table from an alien named Vox in a cramped room dimly lit by a single flickering light panel. Vox slid a dossier across the scratched metal surface. "You're the best of the best, human. That's why we need you." Marcus flipped through pages detailing a critical covert operation deep in hostile territory. A rogue faction of Vox's reptilian species, the Evora, had stolen schematics for a devastating weapon that could incinerate planets. Vox needed Marcus to infiltrate their base and retrieve the data drive at any cost. Failure meant the rogue Evora could hold the galaxy hostage. Marcus smirked. "Why come to a human? Your fancy council can't clean up its own mess?" "This mission is too important. Like it or not, you humans are the best warriors we've got. 2 centuries and you've never lost a fight. The council needs you to handle this while we still can, before it's too late for us all." The grizzled ex-Special Forces soldier leaned back in his chair and locked eyes with Vox. "Fuck it, let's do this," Marcus grunted, shaking Vox's scaly hand. He got up and strode out of the cramped interrogation room to the hangar bay. There sat the sleek black Evora stealth ship, bristling with advanced tech. Marcus climbed aboard and settled into the pilot's seat, hands flying over the unfamiliar controls as he fired up the engines. Vox's face appeared on the comm screen. "I've uploaded the mission briefing to your ship's computer. You'll be inserting on the planet's surface, undetected, a few clicks from the rogue Evora base. Traverse the dense jungle to the compound. Stay low and quiet. Place is guarded by Evora Special Forces, nasty fuckers with advanced weapons they stole from us. Take out the perimeter guards silent as a ghost. Get inside, secure that data drive, and get the hell out. And don't let them catch you. They'll purge those schematics if they realize they've been breached." Marcus nodded, committing the plan to memory as the stealth ship lifted off. He pushed the throttle to max burn, and the inky void of space filled the view screen. As he neared the target planet, a shrill beeping filled the cockpit. Proximity alert. He'd been spotted. "Shit!" Marcus spat as the ship rocked violently. The flashing red display showed plasma cannons locking on from the planet's surface. Alarms blared as the hull integrity dropped. Knowing the ship was lost, Marcus sprinted to the airlock, snatching a parachute on the way. He hit the emergency release and leapt into open air a split second before the ship exploded behind him. The shockwave sent Marcus tumbling as he plummeted through the atmosphere. Plasma bolts streaked past, singeing his flight suit. Struggling to right himself, Marcus yanked the parachute release with one hand while drawing his sidearm with the other. Twisting his body, he returned fire at the plasma cannons below, the wind roaring in his ears. The chute unfurled and jerked him upright as the jungle canopy rushed up to meet him. This mission had gone foobar before it even started, but he was a human, damn it, he'd get it done. Marcus hit the jungle floor hard, the parachute billowing over him. He thrashed to untangle himself, then shed the chute and sprinted for cover in the dense mist, plasma bolts searing the foliage around him. Heart pounding, he dove behind a gnarled tree trunk as return fire shredded the bark. Catching his breath, he checked his wrist computer for the coordinates Vox had provided. The Evora compound was 2 clicks northeast through unforgiving terrain. Setting off at a brisk pace, Marcus kept to the shadows, senses heightened for any sign of the enemy. After an hour of navigating the treacherous jungle, he spotted the facility through the trees, a lone sentry patrolling the perimeter. Creeping up behind the guard in a flash, Marcus seized him in a chokehold, clamping a hand over his snout to muffle any sound. They struggled briefly before the Evora went limp. Marcus dragged the body into the undergrowth and stripped off the guard's black armor, donning it as a disguise. Trying to mimic the sentry's upright gait, Marcus approached the compound gate, heart in his throat as he swiped the guard's access card. The scanner blinked green, and the reinforced door slid open with a hiss. He was in. The sleek black corridors were a stark contrast to the wild jungle. Marcus moved swiftly, hugging the walls. He ducked into an alcove to access a computer terminal, fingers flying over the Evora script. Downloading a schematic of the base, he pinpointed the chamber housing the stolen data drive. 2 levels down. Weaving through the gleaming labyrinth, Marcus finally reached the secure vault. A hulking door of some alien alloy, far too thick to blast through. He removed a breaching charge from his belt, placing it carefully before ducking back around the corner. The controlled blast shook the corridor, acrid smoke pouring from the chamber. Alarms shrieked to life as Marcus charged into the vault. His eyes fell on the data drive, no larger than a thumbnail, encased in a transparent cylinder on a pedestal. Lunging forward, he snatched the precious cargo, stowing it securely. He whirled to make his escape and found himself face to face with a massive Evora, looming in the doorway. "Intruder!" the commander bellowed, a jagged plasma blade extending from his gauntlet with an ominous hum. He swung the searing blade in a vicious arc. Marcus dove aside, feeling the heat of the plasma as it passed inches from his face. The commander advanced with a roar, slashing and thrusting with blinding speed. Marcus backpedaled, trying to stay ahead of the deadly blade, but the towering Evora's reach was too great. Marcus knew he couldn't win this fight on brute force. As the commander lunged again, Marcus hurled a flashbang, the searing light and concussive blast causing the Evora to reel back with a screech of pain. Seizing his chance, Marcus leapt onto the larger warrior's back, legs wrapping around his thick neck. He wrenched backward with all his strength, using his weight as leverage to drag the thrashing commander to the ground. The Evora bucked and twisted, smashing Marcus against the bulkhead with bone-rattling force, but he clung on like his life depended on it. They crashed across the room, the commander's claws scrabbling at Marcus's legs, his choked roars growing weaker. After a desperate minute that felt like an eternity, the Evora finally shuddered and went limp. Marcus staggers to his feet, snatching the commander's gauntlet and sprinting for the exit, alarms blaring. He bursts into the corridor and is met with a hail of plasma fire. Evora soldiers are closing in from both sides, trying to cut off his escape. Marcus bursts from the compound, plasma bolts sizzling past his head as he races into the misty jungle. He activates the stolen gauntlet, the humming plasma blades slicing through the dense undergrowth, leaving an obstacle course of tangled foliage for his pursuers. Sprinting through the fog-shrouded trees, his lungs burning, Marcus skids down a muddy embankment. Suddenly, a plasma bolt strikes his left shoulder with a searing hiss. The impact spins him to the ground, white-hot agony lancing through his body. Gritting his teeth, Marcus staggers to his feet, his useless arm dangling at his side. He lurches forward, crashing through the jungle, as the enraged shouts of the Evora soldiers grow louder behind him. His boots pound the muddy earth, his breath coming in ragged gasps. To ahead, the trees abruptly give way to open air. Marcus skids to a stop at the edge of a sheer cliff, gazing down at the churning river far below. He whirls as the Evora soldiers burst from the jungle, plasma rifles leveled at his chest. The squad leader steps forward, his yellow eyes glinting. "Give us the data drive, human," he growls, "and I'll grant you a quick death." Marcus slowly reaches into his pocket, his fingers brushing the data drive. In a flash, he whips out a concussion grenade and hurls it at the Evora. The soldiers dive for cover as the grenade detonates with a deafening bang and blinding flash. Seizing his chance, Marcus leaps from the cliff. For a sickening moment, he's in freefall, the wind rushing past him. Then he hits the water hard, the impact driving the breath from his lungs. He claws for the surface with his one good arm, spots dancing in his vision. The current suddenly yanks him downriver, dragging him into a series of raging rapids. Marcus fights to keep his head above water as he's dashed against jagged rocks, his body battered and tumbling, his lungs scream for air, his vision tunneling. Just as blackness threatens to engulf him, a strong hand fists in his collar, hauling him out of the churning water. Marcus collapses into a concealed hovercraft, coughing and sputtering. "I thought you could use a lift," a familiar voice says. Marcus looks up into the battered, bleeding face of Vox, his reptilian features set in a grim smile. Marcus grins back weakly, clutching his wounded shoulder. "Impeccable timing, lizard man. I had 'em right where I wanted 'em." Vox snorts, gunning the hovercraft's engine. "Sure you did, human, sure you did." The hovercraft surges forward, skimming low over the river, as plasma bolts sizzle past. Vox weaves between the towering cliffs, pushing the engine to its limit. The enraged bellows of the Evora soldiers fade behind them as they race downstream. Marcus slumps back in his seat, gritting his teeth against the pain. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out the data drive, miraculously intact. "I hope this damn thing was worth it," he mutters. Vox glances over, his eyes widening at the sight of the data drive. "Well done, human," he says, genuine respect in his voice. "With those weapon schematics secured, we just might have a chance against the rogues." The hovercraft whips around a bend in the river, leaving the raging rapids behind. Marcus lets his eyes close, exhaustion washing over him. It had been one hell of a mission, but he'd done what he always did. Get the job done, no matter the cost. The fate of the galaxy was still hanging in the balance, but for now he'd bought them a fighting chance. As the hovercraft races onward, Vox's voice cuts through the engine's hum. "This is far from over, human. That data drive may have critical intelligence, but the rogue Evora are still out there and they'll be hunting us. We need to get this information back to the Council, and fast. I hope you're ready for another fight." Marcus cracks one eye open, a wry smirk twisting his face despite the pain. "Bring it on, Scales, I'm just getting warmed up." The hovercraft whined as Vox pushed the engine to its limits, blood trickling down his scaly face from a jagged gash on his brow. Marcus slumped in the seat beside him, his breathing labored, his jacket soaked with blood from his wounded shoulder. With a trembling hand, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the data drive, its metal casing slick with river water. "I hope this damn thing was worth it," Marcus rasped, his voice strained with pain and exhaustion. Vox glanced over, his reptilian eyes unreadable. "More than you know, human. More than you know." The hovercraft skimmed over the choppy water, leaving the raging rapids and towering cliffs behind. In the distance, a sleek Galactic Council ship came into view, its hull gleaming in the fading light. Vox guided the hovercraft alongside the larger vessel, and a hatch hissed open. Marcus staggered as he stepped onto the ship, his vision blurring, his legs threatening to give out. A team of medics swarmed around him, easing him onto a stretcher. As they rushed him to the medbay, he caught a glimpse of Vox striding down the corridor, the data drive clutched tightly in his clawed hand. Hours later, Marcus woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor, the sharp scent of antiseptic in his nostrils. He blinked, his eyes adjusting to the dim light of the medbay. His shoulder throbbed beneath a layer of bandages, but the searing pain had dulled to a manageable ache. Vox sat beside the bed, his usually proud posture slumped, his face etched with weariness. "How are you feeling, human?" Marcus pushed himself up on his elbows, wincing as the movement pulled at his wound. "Like I got chewed up and spit out. But I'll live." He met Vox's gaze, his brow furrowing. "The data drive?" Vox sighed, his shoulders sagging. "It's in the hands of the Council now, but Marcus, it contained more than just weapon schematics. We found evidence of corruption at the highest levels of the Council itself." Marcus stared at him, a cold weight settling in his gut. "What kind of corruption?" "Rogue elements within the Council, collaborating with the Evora faction you just faced, planning a coup to seize control." Vox shook his head, his voice heavy with disgust. "Your mission exposed the conspiracy, but the fallout, it's going to be immense. The Council is in turmoil, arrests, political purges, and it's only the beginning." Marcus swung his legs over the side of the bed, ignoring the protest from his battered body. "So what happens now?" Vox's expression turned grim. "Now you're in grave danger. As the only human who knows the truth, the rogue elements will be desperate to silence you. Tie up loose ends." Marcus let out a humorless chuckle. "Just another day on the job, right?" "This is serious, Marcus. The Council can't protect you, not openly. It would risk further destabilizing an already precarious situation. You need to disappear." Marcus met Vox's gaze steadily. "I know what I signed up for, Vox. I'll do what needs to be done." Days later, Marcus stood in a small, dimly lit room, watching a live feed of a grand ceremony taking place light years away. The Galactic Council chamber was a sea of somber faces, representatives from 100 worlds gathered to witness a historic moment. In a gesture of gratitude for Marcus's actions in preserving the stability of the galaxy, humanity was being granted an official seat on the Council. A human ambassador stood at the podium, accepting the honor on behalf of her people. But Marcus himself was absent, watching from the shadows. For his own safety, his role in the affair was being kept secret, the price of doing what needed to be done. A soft chime alerted him to an incoming message on an encrypted channel. Vox's face flickered onto the screen, his expression grave. "The rogue elements are still out there, Marcus, and they'll be coming for you." Vox's voice was urgent, insistent. "Go dark. Stay vigilant. Trust no one. I'll be in touch." The message cut out abruptly, plunging the room into silence. Marcus stood there for a long moment, the weight of the galaxy settling on his shoulders. A soldier without an army, facing an enemy that could be anywhere, anyone. He picked up his plasma rifle, the weapon of familiar weight in his hands. Checking the charge, he slipped it into the holster at his side. No parade, no glory, no rest. The mission continued. Marcus strode out of the room, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. He didn't look back. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.